Look at that. They're so kind. So kind.
Yes, the Google voice.
Mhm. I'm going to, I see it here. Beautiful.
Yeah. And honestly, that's the next level of fear porn that we're working into, is the technocracy that everybody's getting worried about. I just had
Oh,
somebody ask me today about the magnet sticking to chicken. Um, and it's interesting because it's like a twofold thing. You're aware of this stuff, but you don't feed into it. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, yes, it's happening, but you don't get upset about it because there is a whole level of wonderful, ascended, beautiful beings that are all around this planet that are like,
Mhm.
that's not happening. Even if you don't know how they're going to fix it, it's like, imagine all the coolest, smartest superheroes you've ever seen times 1,000 in spaceships, figuring out ways to counteract all that stuff. That's
Yeah.
what's going on right now. You know what I mean? Spiritually, technologically, like in every way we can conceive of, and then some.
Yep, I
And
100% agree with you.
so,
And we're just letting some people pop in. Hey, everybody, it's good to see you. Oh my goodness. Um, just get some stuff moving and get things going. I don't know how to, oh, that looks like it's probably going to be okay. So yes, that's perfect. Okay. I had taken the Facebook app off of my phone because you know what it did is I upgraded or updated my phone, not upgraded it, but did a uplink, and it said that now it needs to start tracking me. Otherwise, it wasn't going to let me use the app. And I was like,
yeah.
no, no, thank you. No,
Well,
thank
and I think what we're going to find the next few years is that you're either going to go with technology and it's going to become really oppressive, or you're going to have to stop using it because
you.
that's the divide. Like, they're not going to, or we're going to have to make our own technology that completely is not a part of any of the old systems.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize the matrix that we're talking about is a thought matrix, but it's also the way we do money, the way we do government, the way our
Mm.
technology works. Everything is part of that matrix. It's all designed to work together to siphon constant energy from us. And it does. I mean, if you study how taxes work, if you study how our government works, it's all about sucking energy up the pyramid to the top, and everybody at the bottom gets not much, even though they do most of the work.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree with you there. Hi, everybody. We're popping in. Sorry about the late um, putting out there. Boy, Patrick and I were just talking before we popped on here about how crazy everything's been, how it's been feeling, what's going on. And my goodness, everyone's butts are kind of getting kicked here. So it's like
Yeah.
if we have any kind of like other job to do, I know I'm working in healing 4 days a week. Patrick's got his own thing going, and we've got kids. Finally, school is done. So wow, hopefully with summer coming up, I mean, I do suspect that it's going to be it's going to be a pretty rough summer. We've got the electrical peaks, we've got the magnetic peaks. So we've got a really big summer coming up with everything that's shifting and changing. But here we are, we made it, and we're looking to do, there's a lot to talk about. So, I like to just say that we're going to allow this to be a free, free flow. But we are also going to do, really touch base on the second part of sacred sexuality. And again, Patrick says this so much better than myself. So I'm going to let him take over the whole, we're sovereign beings and not medical professionals. So
Right.
feel free to
For
share
sure.
that piece for me.
So yeah, we don't we don't we're just sharing our perspectives, and from the new reality that we're moving into, everyone is their own universal bubble. Okay, you need to take in information, you need to do your own filtering, and you get to decide, what information I'm going to look at, what information I'm not, and how intense that information is. It becomes very much about owning that, because I don't want to take any of your power away. Chastity doesn't want to take any of your power away. We're our own masters. We have our own opinions. We have our own views. And that's really where we want to come from when we want other people who follow us, just our information to come from, to be in a world where everyone is making their rules themselves, and you get to choose, do you want people in your reality or not, and I think we're going to find a lot more people are very much more discerning about that than we've ever been before. Like,
It's so important right now, and that's what we were just talking about before, about who we follow, why we follow them, and a lot of the spiritual community, that's something I talk about in my classes, is we get together and talk about, you can kind of see what's happening. It's not like future telling like it used to be, right? We used to actually, time was moving so much slower, right? So we used to be able to see the timelines better. So will you get what would be like a reading or something like that, and it was, if you said, oh, this is more than likely going to happen, you could see percentages more. Now things move so fast, it's just a little bit different, so we're not seeing that kind of the same. But one of the things that we're noticing is that because there's no veil, it's easier to see who the deceptive kind of dark arts people are, where we're being deceived. And unfortunately, I have found a lot of people in our spiritual communities are compromised. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming out. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to witness some people that we followed for a long time, perhaps, are not on our team.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what it comes down to, is it's a lot less about teams. It's a lot less about winning and losing and more about having fun and playing the games. And that's what our universe started as. It started out as a fun way to explore the vastness of everything that you are in a slowly evolving being that became more and more advanced. And then as it became more polarized, there's these rules and you got to do it this way. And the reason is because the more control you have, the more you're able to decide how things work, and you can then harvest more energy. And that's really what it comes down to, is that you're going to see, like, people are trying to decide what you think, how you think, punish you if you don't think a certain way. And that's not how the good side plays. It's not. The good side knows that, things work out in the end, and you can explore a darker side, but it's more like death and decay is the recyclement. When you get sick of something, it needs to be recycled, and you don't hold on to it because you are this free flowing energy. You're not just a body, you're not just these solid things. And that's the reality we're moving into, this open mix of ideas and thought processes. And that, when we study science fiction and fantasy, magic and stuff, reality becomes mutable and people can shape shift. You can go into astral realms and explore with your spiritual body and stuff, and then you can change shapes, you can change who you are, you can blend your energy with other people, you can become soul groups, where you blend entire groups of energy together, thought processes, entire minds together, and it becomes a lot less stuck. It becomes a lot less, it's hard to say this is one thing and that's another thing. It's all kind of blended. So
I've been loving the group blending. The soul families have been loving that we're finding each other. We're able to speak openly without judgments. We're able to witness each other's growth, trigger each other for growth. And
yes.
so it's just been, wow, absolutely powerful. It's been so powerful and so amazing. And one of the things, and we're hearing this talked about quite often, with the solar Christ Michael, with the king and queen templating, all of this stuff awakening in the planet, right? This isn't just a consciousness that came in from like the heavens, so to speak. This is something that's organic to our planet, organic to the history of our planet. The connections with Tara, Gaia, with Tara's female counterpart, Tiamat, these energies are coming back, right? All of these energies are literally being awakened from stasis in the planet. And so one of the things that I've been here to do is to understand what is the Vesica Pisces, what is polarity, how do we take duality and this polarity, what was put into our planet, this machinery that was put into our planet for gender splitting and these kinds of things, ripping apart the male and female and bringing this back together, understanding that there's a union within self that is essentially a sexual union. It would be the embodiment of the male and female pieces into your own body as a type of intercourse. It sounds very sexual. And when this is healed, new pieces in your body come online. And then you also have an opportunity to then meet partners that have had this same type of awakening within their own body. And this would be called the Heros Gamos, so the Herogamic Union. And we did talk a little bit about last week, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago,
2 weeks ago.
about the dangers of just going out there, how sexual energies are harnessed from us, why they're harnessed. We talked a little bit about um, child trafficking and what's being harnessed, the energies that are being harnessed there. And so I'm going to let Patrick just kind of take the lead on this part in
Okay.
how we're going to start to talk about the benefits of uh, having sexual partners. What does this look like? How can we create change with our own bodies when we're in connection to body, mind, spirit, and anchored into this gift?
Yeah. So like we said last time, you're gonna find gender becomes very fluid because you're integrating both the sensual nature of the female side, the intuitive side, with the creative, building, logical side of the male, and that you become less about this very specific role and more about blending and finding the people who match that level of, like you said, of it's English is so hard
I know.
to
I
describe
often
these
just
things.
break out into light language because I'm just like, I
Right.
can't find the words for this.
Right. And know when I say levels and stuff that a lot of that's grounded in the old vibrations and stuff, but
Yeah.
really what we're talking about is you've collected a lot of information, you've collected a lot of consciousness, you expand yourself to see a lot of new things. You're understanding energy bodies, you're understanding your chakras, you're understanding, different levels and layers of dimensions and parallel realities. And you're going to find other people, you're going to find you have to be around other people who are like that. And that is the Heros Gamos is taking, like, the planet Earth right now is one of the most watched and one of the most interacted with planets in the universe because of what's going on with us, which means that we have energy from all these different sources coming together and blending. And that's what we're really trying to do here. That's what the Heros Gamos is just about taking all these different powers and abilities and thought processes and integrating it into one being. And that's what these new children coming up are. And that's why it's very hard for them to communicate. That's why we see a lot of autism, because they're more sensual, they're more about emotions, they're more about energy transference, and a lot less about vocalizing, a lot less about writing and stuff. They're about the feel of things, because the feeling is how we communicate at higher levels. That's what light language is. It's more a communication of whole concepts of things rather than this very slow sort of broken down energy. And the reason it was broken down was so that it could be more easily farmed. So you're going to find you're going to be a little bit faster, and you're going to be finding people who you're going to start talking to psychically and stuff. But when you get into the Heros Gamos, when you get into this divine union, you're taking all of that energy and you're creating a vessel in the physical. Okay. And that is, we tried this a lot, like in the past, and it's always been stuck or messed with, because it means that you're taking and creating a vessel for a lot more of this energy to be held in one location in the universe and go out and explore. And so it requires a purity. You can't have a lot of this gunk, these blockages, this held up energy, because it needs to be fluid, it needs to flow, it needs to be able to contact different solar systems and different constellations and galaxies. It needs to be able to go into the planet and see the energy systems there and stuff like that. And so you find um it we're literally separating. I mean, people are literally either you understand a lot of this stuff and it's something you're into, or you're just not, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and so the the nature, you have to be a very pure person yourself. You have to be able to clean out your body, not have attachments, not have siphonings, so that you can transfer that energy into somebody else. And then, you know, as a woman especially, you have to be able to hold that body, that essence for 9 months, not be harassed by things that are going to try to slow it down, try to siphon it off, to give birth to somebody that is literally the next level of human being, you know.
Yeah,
um
thank you for that. There's when we go into our first levels of um, beginning to build this spiritual piece of your body, we move into something called building our wings, right? And when we're building our wings, you know, we're really accessing different points in our body, which bring in accessing. When I say accessing, I would like to mention that when, in order to access them, we have to clear them out. So we go through timeline clearings. We begin to have when we're up moving in this spiritual vibration, we're moving through a system of memories that are from the spiritual realms, right? This is a lot of people are doing planetary grid work that are moving through this area. They're learning genetic healings and clearings. They're going to be understanding more about where they're from, who they actually are, what their purpose is. And this is kind of when we start to get our dark arts training, right?
yeah,
And
because you become a threat to them. You start seeing
yeah,
them, you have to start dealing with them.
yeah,
That's when the work with your body, the Reiki healing, starts to become important, because you start, I mean, basically, we are ourselves a Tesla coil. We have electricity running through our nerves, up our spine, into our head. The pineal gland connects us to the imaginary energetic realm, and then we can take that energy down through us, down into our hands. Our hands are very complex. All of our nerves end in all of our fingers and all of our toes. Those all have to be cleared out. I mean, imagine just water hoses that have plugs and little, you know, holes in it. We have to clean all those. The little leeches and all kinds of nasty things that chastity has to deal with. Those all have to be cleared, because, you know, you're channeling this power, these powerful forces through you, to do these healings, to do these astral projections, to do all of these and things, connecting to the grids of the earth, talking to the elementals and the fae people and stuff. And that's why they seem very tricky and stuff, is because they instantly know, you know, if you're not doing the work, if you have blockages, if you know, are not cleaned out, and they
yeah,
don't mess around with that stuff. They
yeah.
don't have time for it.
Yeah, and this is also when they're going to try to latch on. So, you know, and this is some of the stuff that we talked about prior before, you know, this is when beings will, because you can see them, this is when, you know, this is the dark arts training. This is when it's time to go, oh my gosh, are you good? Are you bad? You know, how do I know what's happening? So we begin to gather our tools to be able to work in these realms. And then we move into, you know, so this is really understanding, the first level is really understanding seven dimensional work. Moving into the next stage is really beginning to understand the eighth dimension. And when we get into the eighth dimension, we're going to really start focusing on different wars, timeline wars, Orion wars. And Patrick mentions what our hands feel like. um, Now, I used to be a Reiki master teacher. I don't work in those realms. It's a very heavy vibration for me. It's heavy for a lot of people, but not everybody, right? So it's kind of funny because I used to think when I was doing Reiki and I was teaching it, and some people took my classes, they're like, I don't think you're doing Reiki. I'm like, oh, I'm not. They're like, yeah, no, like this is something completely different. But some of us have what's called Orion codes in our hands. And these Orion codes, it feels different than if you're running energy through the body. I kind of see Reiki as running like fourth, fifth, sixth dimensional frequencies, right? So this is a little bit different, and the hands feel different. The arms vibrate a little bit different, and it's prominent in males, but not all. It's not just males, but they're very powerful to be able to remove suppressor parasite entities. This is the throbbing voice to skull V2K stuff that we get, can really kind of remove that rather quickly. So, begin to start to connect in like Atlantean timelines, understand what those are about, and then uh, moving into the next level of really grasping and understanding the rod and staff healing, which is when we get into that complete sacred marriage. And so there are some really cool things you can do when your rod and staff are built, when you have intercourse, or you're having any interlocking moments, whether that be a kiss, whether that be an embrace. There are lots of different things that you can do with your rod and staff built. You can put light codes in the other person's body. Patrick talks about being a Tesla coil. Like, you can shoot things out people's meridians. You can put them into the planet. I think we mentioned before, like clearing out ley lines, and really just having a different level of this sacred union opens up the heart center. The heart chakra creates a different type of vocabulary. So the hearts actually spin open, and they speak to each other in there's literally no language for it. I don't even know how to put it in a language, but having an embrace with somebody that has an equally open and receptive heart is probably one of the most powerful things to experience. And when we are with a partner that perhaps doesn't have, generally you'll see women with a full rod and staff built, and let's say that your partner doesn't have that fully built, the woman can then help piece together this sacred marriage within her partner. And I think that that's really fun. It's really fantastic, but it can also create havoc. It can create dark portals. It can create all kinds of things if the couple is not aware and doesn't know how to use the proper protection. And how do you create like this perfect balance, right? How do you create that and awaken that? And bringing in children. I don't know. I brought in 5 star seeds, so it does a
Yeah,
number on your body, right?
sure,
And
absolutely.
it doesn't, I'm telling you what, it's a lot of work. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, the partners that I had children with, they didn't make it for the long haul. It's not easy, to bring in star seeds. It's not easy on the body. It's not easy on the mind. And the recovery from that is, at least for myself, is pretty brutal. It takes a while, and not everybody has what it takes to go through that type of healing, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
great.
and that's what it comes down to, is that you have to change. You have to be so outside the system for these things. You have to take time for yourself in a way that most people are not trained to do anymore. I mean, we're dealing with it now on a, a planetary level, with people not working, and we have people talking about more fair business deals, but it's the same thing with, like, we don't even give women a month to recover after they give birth to a whole human being, and all that's entailed from that. And then you have to be able to, after you've gone through this experience, stand up for yourself, say, no, I need to take time for me, I need to heal, I need to go through this, and we've lost all the sacredness to this. There used to be, you went to sacred springs, you had shamans speak over you, you talked to your ancestors. All these things were wicked important. They still really are. And we skip all that now, and then we wonder why we're this horrible mess
Yeah.
afterwards. And again, when you start, like you said, you start really getting into this, you start realizing, you know the planetary body has been messed with, and everybody that comes through, if you haven't healed that stuff, things like J seals all over the planet, these negative portals that are opened up on the planet coincide with your own body, because your body is a reflection of the planet itself that you're born on. So then you need to heal all that kind of stuff. And all these awarenesses of how those things work and how they happen as you start to really become aware of these things. I mean, like you said, you become aware of your past timelines, your DNA that you're attached to, your ancestors, the history of the planet. You become aware of the planetary body and how everything that's attacked on the planetary body is attacked in you as well, because we are, a manifestation of that. And then your children being born and things like vaccines and the placenta being attached and bringing through all of the antibodies from the mother, like the hospitals don't let you do, having those little fights that seem like they might not seem like much, but they're a huge part of the process of human beings and transferring energies and healings and, being able to, I mean, the mother literally transfers her entire resistances of her body that she spent her whole life building through her placenta. Like if you don't do
Right.
that and you just give your child vitamin K instead, you've taken a large chunk of their immunity out of them that they now have to build, that they have to devote energy to, and the
Yeah.
same kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's so much to this stuff.
They come
Um,
out of the body being being more I forgot where I was going to go with this, but I started to think of vitamin K. And it's like the first thing that they do is they want to continue to inject. It's one injection after another, after another, after another, right? I
right.
like to think that I had it pretty easy. I put up a fight when I was when my mom would take me. I was the one screaming, just innately I knew, don't put this in my body.
Yeah.
Um, and and it wasn't until I had my own children, and my first child, I was like halfway through vaccinations, and I was so young. I was 22 years old when I had my first child, and it wasn't an expected thing. I wasn't planning on that, right?
Mhm.
And halfway through the indoctrinated injection process, I had one doctor say to me, "Oh, she doesn't need her whatever dose of oral polio." They were still doing oral polio back then. And I was like, "She doesn't? Why? Like, I don't understand. Why doesn't she need it?" He's like, "Oh, I forgot what he said, something about how she just didn't need it." And and then he was explaining to me why I shouldn't give my child um, milk products. And this was really curious to me because I didn't really like milk anyway. But you grow up, you hear all these things. Everyone has to have their government cheese, and that's how they're going to get their protein and all this stuff. And so I had thought to myself, well, I wonder why he said that. So it made me start to look. And I was so curious, I started doing research. And I have never once turned back researching. So I've literally been on
Yeah.
the vaccine mission and research for over 20 years. So it's been about 22 years now that I've been researching vaccines and the effects of the body, the mind, the spirit, what it does to the light body. And so, um, any of my other children after that, I didn't put anything in them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
And that's what a lot of this is. It's to get you to feel like you need constant input from outside authorities rather than being able to filter. You just accept this injection, this idea, this, same thing with like college is the same thing as the injections. It's just, you must accept this authority is smarter than you, it's better than you, and you must not process it. You just take it. And it's indoctrination, straight and simple.
It is indoctrination. And there's something else to talk about when we're carrying children. Not only do they get the planetary miasma, so it's like the moment that they come in. This is why astrology is so important, right? the moment that they come in, they are then carrying all of those past traumas from the planet, right?
Yeah.
All of those past wars, heartaches, all of the things. They take all of that in, and so we have an opportunity as both the mother who carries the child and the father to be able to, you're talking about shaman praying over them. This is a whole nother level of creating the opportunity for our children to come in and be completely wired to their own sacred sexuality, by healing them in the womb. That people just don't do anymore. They don't think about it anymore. We just rip them out, cut the cord, send them on their way.
Spank them on the ass, make them cry. First thing they do is cry. They're
start,
sad, right?
start
Their first,
screaming, they're freezing, going, where the hell am
right.
I?
Yeah.
Why did I sign up for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you might say that our ancestors were savage, but they were not, because they knew those things. They knew how important it was that, the first people they saw were their parents, or their elders, or people that actually gave a shit about them,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And I was going to say, like, a major thing that's been programmed in the males is not to have a sensual side, not to have a feeling side to them. And it creates a very it makes it very hard for males to interface, especially when you talk about sacred sexuality, because what happens is, in the male culture, the only way you get any kind of sensual attention is through sex, and it's very straightforward. You have sex and that's it. And you, depending on what cultures you grew up in, you might not even do certain kinds of things. You might not be able to, or it's looked down upon, and then you're made fun of and all that kind of stuff behind the doors. And it, in this expansion, you become much more open to feeling each other, feeling your body, feeling how the energy builds inside you, and all this stuff is subtle energy. What has happened is I call it, like, it's like having the energy, because we have been so inundated with all of this noise and all of these things. Our fine tuning gets cranked up to like 11, and really we have so much range, even in the area between 1 and 2. Like, there's 100 levels between 1 and 2, and that's why a lot of people have a hard time dealing with these energies that are coming in right now, because they're very subtle, and you clean all that out, and now all of a sudden you can feel all of this stuff again that you had tuned out because you just couldn't handle it. Like I was saying, with men being harassed about having emotions.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, we're doing the work to have emotions, to process, to cry when we need to cry, or enjoy an intimate sexual relationship with our partners, and actually share emotions, talk amongst each other, not just do a physical thing and have it be about the product of an orgasm. It's blending energy, creating joy together, this powerful, empowered thing.
It's
um
it's so powerful to exchange. It's so intimate and powerful to exchange emotions. Exchanging sexual fluids is something that it's sacred. It's
yeah,
beautiful. It's empowering, and it can, in an instant, in a moment, change and heal the body. It can heal
right,
traumas. It can take, with an open, loving partner, holding space, and you set intentions. You can set intentions for what you want to happen. What do you
yeah,
want to happen in this moment? Do you want your partner's, self to be healed from whatever trauma? Do
right.
and you can make those connections together, and you can understand what it's like to be of service to your partner. Again,
because
and go ahead.
because in those moments you're wicked receptive. You're super receptive in a way that you're never allow yourself to be at any other time in your life.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you really have a chance to get deep in. I know people's
Cervix
minds
stuff
go
is
wild,
big.
but you do
Oh, look, the
energetically.
average cervix is only 4.5 inches deep,
There you
so let's
go.
not go crazy.
Well, yeah, exactly. But And that's what I'm saying. They're ripped wide open. They're feeling things literally that they've never felt before. You can talk about just skin on skin contact. You can talk about, touching parts of the body that usually never get touched and all that kind of stuff. And that's what's happening. You're getting into your deep sensual nature, and that's why it's so powerful, because then, like you said, you can set an intention and they're wide open and they're ready to accept it. And that's what it is on the ultimate level, that you are creator creating. So it's funny, what they have done is try to get you to see everything as rules and laws, but it's really more about you saying, okay, this is me doing this. This is me open to this. This is me allowing this to happen. I say all the time, you've done all this work and things aren't working out. Maybe the reason it's not working out is because you aren't allowing yourself to believe that you can have it, allowing yourself to believe that good things can come to you. And that's kind of what this sacred sexuality does too. You feel the good coming into you in a very physical way. So it transfers in an emotional and spiritual way too. You become more open to good, beautiful things in your life. And you realize how much you've turned off. When you start doing a lot of this work, you realize how much you've turned off all that. This can't be good, that can't be good, nothing can feel good. I can't enjoy a moment where I'm relaxing, and really just let go. I got to feel guilty about this. I got to worry about bills. I got to worry about my kids. When you really get into this, you get into the sensual nature of just everything. You know what I mean? When you relax, you really relax, you let everything go. You're just completely wide open to the universe and the energy. I notice a lot of people talk about the ascension energy, give them headaches and aches and pains. I don't get a lot of those because I'm so open, because I just, like I was telling you in our chat beforehand, I let it flow through me. And that's literally what the flow is about. It's about letting it go through you. You don't hold on to it. You don't need to contain this energy and, have superpowers where you levitate, shoot lightning out of your eyeballs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that stuff will eventually come in the moments that you need it. That, like, one of the things that is really interesting about how I perceive things is like, oh, you don't do all these flashy things. It's like, yes, every day I'm not going to be running around doing superpowers, but I have the faith that if I needed them, they're there and I will be able to use them. And the universe is very much, if you pay attention to how it works, it doesn't show off because it doesn't waste energy. Every bit of energy is precious. So if you need that energy, yes, if you've done the work, it'll be there available for you to do these amazing, powerful, miraculous things. But in the day-to-day life, a lot of, like, that's why I talk about, like, studying native cultures, your day seems very blah and mundane, just like a cat, will spend a lot of time in the summer heat relaxing. They don't do anything flashy most of the time, but then when they need that 10% of the time when they're hunting or whatever, all of a sudden they're like a superhuman. And that's really how I feel a lot of this stuff is too. As we start really getting into it, is that you'll find that you don't need to show off all the time. You don't need to show people that you're powerful. You don't need to be on display and proving stuff, because it's a waste of energy. It's a massive waste of energy. The universe doesn't need it, creator doesn't need it. And when you really get into this level of relationship with the universe, that's all that matters. The people that are immediately in your reality, your family, your loved ones, and creator, and everybody else can go do their own thing. And you don't, if they think you're stupid, that's in their little universe. So
So don't succumb to judgment. I like
right.
to create Merkabas. I'm a big, huge Merkaba fan, right?
Yeah.
So I like to take energies and ideas and I like to put them in Merkabas and spin them into the planet, whether that be energy from an orgasm, energy from um, a healing intention that I want to create. Where do I want it? Because that is like a powerful amplifier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and, shielding myself, shielding my partner, shielding the sexual organs, consecrating your sexual organs to God, whether that sounds crazy to you or not. I really don't care. I think it's really important to consecrate your body, your vessel to God. and to claim your sovereignty and claim the rights over your fluids, your scent, your semen, your ovum, all of it, because
Yeah.
those are highly sought after. They're sought after by the negatives. They will take them whether you believe it or not. It doesn't matter if you believe that or not, it
Right.
happens. And so really understanding the human body, sexuality, uh, having um, your pain body cleared. If it's not cleared, know that you can do this with your partner, and you can do this without a partner, right? Um, I would say it's probably more fun with a partner, but if you're not in a loving, trusting relationship, then there's no fun about that at all, and that can create sexual dysfunction. Um, I'm not like an expert on any type of like tantric sex or anything like that. It's just about, who is my partner? Am I in love? What about me do I want to share? And, how can I make this a trusting, loving, beautiful experience? And I have found, by taking my own body parts back, being I don't like the word victim, but having been sexually abused since childhood, it took a really long time to overcome that, to feel safe with a partner, to even feel safe with myself, to feel comfortable with what I wear, how I look. All of these things has been how I view myself, right? Um, and it's hard as an adolescent, and you can see that kids are so awkward, teenagers are so awkward, and now they're just having all of this uh, crap shoved down their throats of who they're going to be, who they need to be. They need to be this, that, or the other thing. Uh, they can't even be a gender anymore, and that actually is detrimental to the sacred union of self, the Haros Gamos within the self. It's very important to understand that while you are both male and female, it's important to identify as your biology for this type of creation, right?
Right.
Everything in creation is both male and female. That it's like,
Right.
sorry, that's just the way that it is. It's both male and female, and you're never going to get an egg out of a rooster. So if we were all roosters running around, there would be no creation, right? So we have to understand that the rooster has to identify as a rooster, and the hen needs to identify as a hen. Otherwise, then
Right.
nothing happens.
Well, and that's one of the things I do. I like to spend a lot of time meditating on this kind of stuff. Like, why are these disparities and stuff? And it really gets down to the idea of, do you believe that this is your only life? If you do, then you can see why there are people who are pressured to be like, oh my God, I want to have all my energy. So I feel female sometimes. I want to dress up like a woman and have makeup on and be desired sexually. Men don't get that a lot, not that way. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of this kind of stuff is too. you I tell people all the time, I'll spend time dating myself. I'll take myself out, treat myself the way I'd want a partner to. I'll go see a movie that I want to see, go eat food that I want to eat, have a really nice time with myself, even take myself home and get myself laid, it's like, and really get into that, like, what do I enjoy? What do I like having touch? What do I like to do? As a larger male, a nerdy guy, I grew up in the 90s. It was not popular to be those things. It is now. It wasn't then. I was not comfortable even being sexual. I didn't feel like it was even okay to be a sexual person at all. You know what I mean? Like, women, you get into your teenage years and you start experimenting with that. You start discovering your sexuality, and swaying your hips and batting your eyelashes gets you things and gets you attention, and how that feels, and the interchange of energy. Why is it so interesting? You're feeling all this attention on you, and that's energy coming into your body, and it we were never allowed to play with that in a healthy way because of all the the stuff that goes on our planet.
Right.
And then when you get into this more healthy phase, like I have, and as you do, you have to go back and realize, okay, I took on a lot of attention from people. Like, maybe I did dress in a certain way that got me a lot of sexual attention that wasn't good. You got to go clean all that stuff out. You got to say, okay, you know, is it okay it is okay to go get lots of sexual attention, but it's not filtered, and it's from all these really, and you get into the whole thing of like, we're moving into a reality where we're becoming psychic, all of us, you know what I mean? So you're going to start being able to pick up that energy. Some of us, I'm not sure Chastity knows, you can feel it. Like I could feel it. Like I can feel people's emotional energy. Like I know how you emotionally are projecting on me. I can't explain it, and I know people can lie about it, but I know, like when you feel a certain way about me, I can tell.
Yeah.
And we're all moving into that, and so it's going to make us a lot more honest, and we're going to have to be a lot more honest with how we use these energies and how we feel them and how we experience them. And it's not going to be okay to fantasize nasty things about somebody anymore, because it's not going to just be in your head. They're going to look at you and you're going to be like, whoa, she felt me feeling her up with my eyes,
I love
and
that.
you
Yeah.
know and that's part of this process too, is we are not healthy sexually, pretty much at all. And what it boils down to is, how would you want to be treated? Truly do you want other people to treat you? How would you feel if it was towards somebody that you really cared about? Like,
One of
and
your
this is
kids,
hard too.
like one of
you
your
know
kids. I like to think about my kids. Like, how would I
right,
want, my daughters
right,
at sexual ages, not as children, but
right.
you know what I mean? Like, how would I
Well,
want
and
them to
just
be treated?
disseminating that, being comfortable with the fact that our family are sexual people. You know what I mean? We didn't come from, nothing. They was not the Jesus experience for our parents either. They were sexual people. They dated each other and flirted and had sexual times. And I mean, in natural cultures like the Native Americans, they had sex in front of their children. It was a completely okay thing to show love and be sexual, and that was fine. And we might never get to that in our culture, but that understanding that, this isn't something to be ashamed of. It is not a terrible thing. That's one of the major things that's been put on us. This is a shameful thing. We should feel bad about every bit of it. What is shameful about it is if you are, for me, like, I don't even fantasize about people that I know, um, unless I know that it's okay for them
Right.
to have me do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people might stop and be like, well, who do I fantasize about? You might need to make stuff up. You know
You
what I
might
mean?
need to. That's like, yeah, don't just be taking me up to the upper room, buddy, because that's not, because I'm gonna be like, who's in my freaking field and why did I let them in? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And like we're saying, this energy, the sexual energy, is very powerful. So it's like somebody going into, your sacred well and dipping out water. You don't want them to have that water. They're
No,
not invited. They're not
no.
allowed to just have it. It's a spiritual form of rape.
Yes.
And it's going to start really feeling like that as you start really getting into this energy and really start working with it. You're going to be like, wow, somebody is thinking really terrible things about me right now, and I don't want that in my energy field.
Well, it's
you
not
know
terrible to the person thinking about it, Patrick, but yes.
well, you know what I mean. And maybe it's not in a nice way, or
Yes,
that kind of
yes.
stuff,
Well, yes.
because that's the other thing.
Then you
People
can
become
also
very
think,
used to just being whatever they want in their head, and
yeah. Yep, that's one of the things we think about. Someone thinks how harmless it is um, to participate in pornography or watching
yeah,
things like that, and thinking about the traumas that has gotten these people to where they are, right? And each
right,
time we have those visions, each time we have that, like, the extra trauma that we're putting on that person's soul, whether they're asking for it or not, they're there, and we're thinking, how are we participating in that? We're enslaving
right,
them more, right back into the system. And it doesn't just go into the NAA system, go ahead, but it uploads into the AI, which is
right.
even harder to get out of the planet.
One of the best ways I like to describe it is, if you've ever been a kid and you've been in a pool, especially a circular pool. It'd have to be a circular pool. If you've ever done that fun thing where you go around the outside of the pool and start walking one direction, you get all the water, start whirlpooling.
Yeah.
That's what this energy does. If you've got a bunch of people thinking all this, like, say you've got a woman who's participating in some sexual slavery fantasy stuff, and you've got 1,000 people that are all thinking about it. All those 1,000 people are adding that energy, and it's all cycling in that direction of a negative downward spiral where she's not a person and she's an object, she can resist it, but it's like she has to push against all that energy wherever she is psychically. Maybe she's really powerful and she can ground and she can push back against it and she can, stop the flow or even reverse it. But that's how you have to start thinking about this stuff. That's how I think about this stuff. It's like the same thing with like manifestation. People are like, I'm manifesting really hard. Like, yeah, but if you're in an energy field with like 10 people in your family who think you're a piece of garbage and they think your life's never going to turn out to anything, it's a straight math equation. As hard as they're feeling about that stuff and as much as they're feeling about that stuff, you have to then in your energy field overcome and believe beyond that.
Yeah.
Which is why, people talk about disengaging from negative people, because it's literally like you're having a constant tug of war with them over manifestation. They're saying, oh, you're garbage, and you're constantly in your life having to then deal with that negative energy, trying to out manifest what you're trying to manifest. And that's why collectively, if you're working with people who are manifesting the same things, you can work a much faster and better, because you're all pushing in the same direction. You're all creating that positive whirlpool.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very easy way to kind of visualize that,
Yeah.
like these sort of energies and what's
And you
going
can
on.
feel it. Like I still like right now when you explain that, I can like feel the water on my legs. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I've done that before, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's a great analogy. Yeah. For a lot of the healing and a lot of those kinds of things, and I've watched my fair share of things that I probably shouldn't have watched. And and we also watch movies. You know what I mean? We're in situations like, the type of programming we have on this planet it's very intense. It's very serious, and we are indoctrinated at such a young age. And I don't think it's just someone like myself who was sexually and physically abused as a child. I think that it goes. I think that you don't have to have that happen, because it's in our face. Every channel we turn, every step we take, it's in our commercials, it's in everything, right? And so
Right.
each time we have that thought, that actually it stimulates. It stimulates our physical body when we're not in control of our physical body. So even the sound of somebody kissing on the television, or the sound of sexual interactions, can stimulate the body. And once that is stimulated, they come in and harvest the energy from
Right.
that. Okay. And if we're not using that energy for something, which clearly you're not going to, right?
Right.
Or maybe you are, but it's still probably not for what we could, or quote unquote should. That's such a yucky word, but
Right.
using it for that energy is going to be harvested and harnessed. Each time there's an ejaculation, whether you're male or female, that energy is harnessed. You got to go back and call back your fluids, right? Or all of those situations. I don't care if you're making a blanket statement or you go back through, it might take some of
Right.
us a lifetime to go back through and name all of them, but
Well, and that's where intention becomes so important, and constantly stacking that intention. I see it kind of like a static charge, with it builds too. And
yeah,
that's one of the major things I've been doing with this energy is I've been relaxing. Like the universe is like, you're taking time off because you need to get rid of all these static charges that are in you, these buildups of these kinetic energies of feeling, sexual and if you understand things like psychological conditioning, like Pavlov's dogs, and I think I brought that up before, you can, build a very powerful charge if you're constantly, like, oh, I hear people making out, suddenly you're right turned on. That's a conditioning. It can be unconditioned, but you have to know about it, you know what I mean? And they're, like you said, constantly conditioning you even though you don't know about it. Like there's so much of this stuff going on all the time. It's like they are constantly doing it. So you need to, when you wake up, go, and like you said, review, go back and be like, wow, okay, all those times I was being conditioned. I need to uncondition. I need to give myself time to do that. It's not just because you realize it doesn't mean it's just going to
no,
stop that. It doesn't
a long
work
time.
that way
I mean,
either.
from personal experience, it takes a long time. I was like, oh, it took a long time to not be able to like watch a movie, watch a movie and not have my body respond. I'm like, no, this is my body. This
Yeah,
is my body and I'm in control of my body. And
right.
it took a long time to untangle that. Granted, I didn't have any assistance, but I was like, I wanted to learn, how am I going to do this? How do I take my power back? How do I deprogram myself?
And it's a very powerful teacher, because then you start, when you have to do that, you realize how much has been done and how hard it is, how important it becomes, and that's why it seems like people like me and Chastity, who have done a lot of this work personally, like I'm the same way. Like I was telling her, I've worked a lot of menial jobs. I've worked in factories where I've done stuff where it's just with my hands, like maybe 10% of my brain's work, the other 90% is doing what basically we call meditation, thinking about all this stuff. And you understand how much of this stuff is going on when you're doing it, at that level. And because we've done all that, and we see how much of it goes on and how often and how much we've had to work to heal it,
Mhm.
we become watchdogs for it. And it seems like we're being dinks, if to use the phrase, like being really mean about it to people, like, oh, don't ever do this because it's really bad for you. It's really hard to describe those years of deprogramming we've had to go through. We don't want anyone else to have to deal with, you know what I mean? And it's not us trying to tell people how to be. It's like being a parent, seeing a kid making a mistake you did when you were in high school, that they're gonna have to go through it, and you don't want them to.
Yeah.
um and that is one thing that's become really apparent to me. The way that we teach as parents, the way we teach as teachers, we've become very used to not allowing them their sovereign ability to learn. Like, we need to do this for them. And
Sure.
that's one thing that I do. And a lot of people think I'm very cold, but for me, it's manifesting that they're sovereign beings who can do the same work I did, and that they sometimes need the slap in the face a few times before they snap out of it, and that they're strong enough to take those slaps in the face like I did a few times before. It was like, oh wow, I don't like getting slapped in the face anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. This isn't okay,
Yeah.
and then heal from that. um, and that becomes a whole practice too, in and of itself, is giving people space to do these things without having to be right in there micromanaging their lives for them,
And the work is worth it, right? The
Yeah,
work is worth it. It's
it
worth
really
it
is.
to deprogram yourself, because it's just, it is what it is. I'll just speak from my own personal experience. It's empowering. Your orgasms are amazing. Everything is different. The
Right.
connection you have with a partner is like, it's different. It's better. And it's like, I promise you come out better on the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, don't do this, you're dirty, it's wrong. No, no, no. That's not at all what that's about. So I'm glad you brought that up, Patrick. But the work is worth it. It is. It's 100% worth it. And it feels better.
Right. And like I said, it's kind of like you're used to working between 1 and 10, when really there's 100 levels just between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
And when you get into those levels, um, for me, it's like one of the things I'm working on personally in my life. This has nothing to do with sexuality, but it's like food. I love,
Mhm.
food, but I eat really bad stuff, and it's like, oh, I don't want to eat just vegetables and fruit because they don't taste good. But the thing is, it isn't that they don't taste good. It's that we're used to these really powerful explosions of flavor that are just over the top and they drown out your senses.
Mhm.
Same thing with sexuality. We're used to these really powerful orgasms, these really powerful, intense situations that drown out your senses. But if you do the work, you get to feel this very subtle but very powerful energies that are you would never pick up on if you hadn't done the work. And it becomes worth it. It becomes like the experience between 0 and 1 becomes like the experience between 1 and 10.
Yeah.
It's that becomes that powerful, and then you can play with the experience from 1 to 10 in that range, and then you really realize how much you've been missing.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
I want to toss in, I know we're really coming up on an hour here, but I really feel like there's a lot of fear. I want to talk about fear porn, because because we're talking about pornography and things like that, but fear creates that same type of addiction. It creates that same type of release in the brain, in the body, mind, and spirit. And so I just kind of want to put this on a little flip note before we go about what fear is doing to our body and about how it's keeping alive the narrative. Do you want to just touch on that before we pop out
Sure.
of here?
Um, one of the things I like to talk about is there was a documentary called "What the Bleep Do We Know," and they talked about that all strong emotions are chemically addictive in our bodies. So that's first off, you have to understand whether it be anger, whether it be pain, whether it be fear, you're literally addicted to those emotions, those strong emotions. Your body craves them and will find reasons to make them. And then you start finding yourself constantly in them. So that's the first process, is you have to detoxify from that. But then the other thing is, like we were talking about with the whirlpool, you're adding into that energy. So if you're afraid of that, you're giving out, you're exhausting that energy into that thing and you're building it. You're like inflating a balloon. So being aware of it is one thing. I'll talk about some of this stuff, like, the big thing now with the nanotechnology and people worried about mind control and stuff. The more you get afraid of it, the more you're feeding into it, you're inflating it. We don't want to do that. We want to be aware of it, but we would need to be aware that you can do just as much positive things to override it as well. And in fact, positivity is much more powerful than negativity. Yoda says in Star Wars that it's quick and seductive, but it's not more powerful. It takes a lot longer to build. But once you get there, it's like an ocean wave. You know what I mean? It just overpowers everything else. So it's about knowing these little tools and these little tricks and not getting lost in, oh my God, the narrative is saying this is going to happen, and then constantly stewing in that. And then you get the physical effects of your body. Like I know you're probably trying to bring up, it reduces your immune system's ability to fight disease. It reduces, it makes you more susceptible to disease. It makes you more susceptible to parasites. It makes you more, you're literally amplifying the pain, by constantly putting into it. And that's one thing I've learned to do, is I constantly say no to that stuff. Like I said, I don't know if I've ever told you this. I overcame anxiety and when I was in high school, because my mom was a worry wart. She was a constant, had to plan everything out, had to have everything a certain way. And I used to get headaches, heartburn, indigestion, migraines, just like, and, hay fever and all that kind of stuff. Once I overcame the anxiety, all that stuff went away, because the anxiety is what feeds into the physical states that bring about the heartburn, the indigestion, the headaches, the migraines, because you're worrying about them. You're literally yourself putting your own energy into making them happen. You're going, oh, I'm going to have this. So you're making it, you're manifesting it. So, so it's multi-layered. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, anxiety is a big one. And a lot of our kids are suffering from anxiety right now. I don't know, it's almost like there's an anxiety button that they're pushing or something.
Oh, for sure.
It's really fascinating to me. Yeah.
Well, actually, if you want to get into that, with the Wi-Fi, there was a patented device because anxiety has a measurable electromagnetic field that we exude from our heart. Every time our heart beats, it creates an electromagnetic field, and that field has a resonance. And depending on what emotion we're feeling, that is what we're outputting. Well, they found if you take that resonance from somewhere else and you put it into somebody, they feel that feeling. So if you take that hertz of energy, which are literally all of our cell towers and stuff have them, and they can, like, on, whenever they want, they want everybody to feel anxiety, they can crank up that anxiety emotion, and it's same thing. And like I said, it's in cell phones, it's in your Wi-Fi, it's in all your electromagnetic, anything that's lower energy brings your energy down into those depressive, negative states. So you constantly have to deal with it.
That's so crazy. Ever since I found you guys, there's this gal on Facebook, Christine Organite. She goes by Organite Christine or Organite Christina. I'll have to look her up. I apologize for not saying her name right. But ever since I've got her little pyramid, and then I have 2 of her pendants, I literally sleep with them on. It changes the way it's changed my shielding process as well, right? Like I shield all the time. I'm using Rainbow Dragon, Solar Rishi. I'm not messing around with my shields. You know what I mean? But this has really protected my heart space. And it's my high heart. I put it specifically to hit my high heart, to be able to feed off of these waves of
Right.
energy, or fend off these waves of energy. So um, anyone who's interested, I'm happy to put a link in. I don't get anything for that. It's not like I get a bonus or anything, but I love what she creates and builds, and it really it feels good against those the pulses that you're talking about, to help ward that off. So
And it can cause nightmares and all that kind of stuff too.
yeah,
There's a 33-foot field. Any electromagnetic device that we use, whether it be a cell phone, Wi-Fi, your TV, turn them all off when you go to bed. Turn them all off when you're trying to meditate, or
yeah,
keep them away from you.
yeah,
Any of that kind of stuff. It really helps. You'd be really surprised if you're having nightmares all the time. Make sure you're not charging your phone near your bed, or near your head. A lot of people do. They don't even think about it. They put it on their nightstand or whatever. Um, Little things like that can really help.
Well, you can see I have a little in here. She's like starving to her death, and can't
Oh
find the
no.
cat. So
Uh-oh. So there's our alarm. It's time.
there it is. Our time is up, Patrick.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think that we're just gonna regularly be popping in and out and having topics of conversation, and weaving
Sure.
in and out. So, um, yeah, if you guys want to pop in different topics, I'm going to be also meeting with Anne, I think, in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about some really fun things. And so, oh my
Yeah. And
gosh,
then you and Colin's talks on Sundays, I always try to pop in and catch those because you guys always have some really cool stuff to talk about. Last week
yeah,
was
he's
awesome.
a he's just a plethora of
Oh
amaze
yeah.
balls, right? Like I love the stuff he brings in, and he really makes science fun. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
I remember I was asking someone before, I want to know about the science of the ascent of my body. I want to know the science of like my spirit. And they're like, oh, that doesn't matter. I'm like, what? What do you mean it
Well,
doesn't matter? Like,
everything matters. And that's the best part about it. Everything matters. And the more you get into it, the more it's easier to work with a lot of that stuff.
yeah,
Because we love to be able to put labels on things, right? That's what
yeah,
we do. We go
yeah,
put
I
labels
know.
on everything. This
I'm
is
gonna
this,
start,
this is
I'm
that
gonna,
work.
I'm gonna unlabel everything. I've been working on not labeling anything, right? And just
Yeah.
creating in the moment, being in the moment. But then sometimes it's kind of hard, like,
Yeah.
getting
Well,
things accomplished. But
it can be fun to create with the idea of, okay, this is how this works, so I'm going to use that as a building block to build that kind of thing.
yeah,
And it's all about your personality. Some people don't need that. Some people are just doing their creative magic thing, and other people like to know, this is how this works with this. And if that's how you create, then you can create some really high-tech detailed stuff. It depends on
absolutely.
where you're at. There's so many different kinds of people here, which is really cool too. There's so much different energy to play with.
There really is. And then understanding that we don't all speak the same language, right?
You
And
don't
so,
have to.
no, that's the beauty of it, right? And it's like,
Right.
that's the beauty of it. We all get to integrate and communicate the way that best serves each of us. So, anyway, thank you for being here, Patrick. What an amazing talk we have.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. I had a great time. I think we really touched on some really good stuff this time. I hope
Yeah.
answered some questions for people. I know
Yeah.
everybody's really curious about a lot of this stuff. So
I know, and it's kind of a taboo thing. So, not, we don't end up getting a lot of comments here, but I get my inbox. I get
oh,
inbox
nice.
questions. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. I'm happy to answer questions in the private, or if
Yeah.
there's something that you want to remain anonymous about, I'm happy to do that too, and still post your question and answer it. And I'm sure Patrick would be happy to do the same thing. I'm speaking for
Yeah.
you on your behalf,
That's
Patrick.
fine. I am. I love to chat about this stuff with people. Especially because it is hard for people, and I know a lot of people don't have these kind of connections in their personal life.
Yeah.
It's hard to you. Sometimes you're the black sheep, and you
Yep.
don't really have
And
the
they're not
chance
ready
to.
to come out and say, "Hey, I want all my friends to know that I think this way," right?
Right.
And that's pretty normal. I don't want my friends to know, but please keep talking. I'm listening to you, and those
Yeah.
are that's really awesome and amazing. So, thank you everybody who who reaches out, who watches. So thank you for being here live with us. And thank you to all who are in the recording as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Much love to you, Patrick.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye, you
Bye,
guys.
Sexuality.
Bye.